Have you ever left a doctor's appointment thinking they just don't get it? They just don't get what I'm trying to tell them. You tried to explain the behaviors, the wandering, the outbursts, the agitation, and instead of a real plan, you got a prescription, or worse, you were told that it's just the dementia. Well, let me say this very clearly. You're not imagining this, and you're definitely not doing anything wrong. And today, I want to talk to you about why you feel so dismissed and what most healthcare providers completely miss about dementia behaviors. I'm Laura Wilkerson, and I have worked in some of the most respected healthcare systems alongside of some of the most caring professionals, and I've seen the same pattern over and over again. When families come to me feeling dismissed, overwhelmed, and second guessing themselves, I let them know that the truth is it's not usually you as the caregiver. That's not the problem. It's not even always their previous provider who they only had 15 minutes in an office visit with. It's the system itself. Because the system was built to treat acute medical issues, not to guide families through long-term progressive conditions like dementia. Even when you're working with well-meaning, compassionate doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, if the structure doesn't support behavior-based coordinated care, well, then it doesn't work for dementia. And that's not your fault. A little bit of history here. See, most medical training is built around diagnosing and prescribing, with an emphasis on solving acute medical issues. And providers are trained to look for something that they can treat or that they can test, such as an infection, a fracture with an X-ray, a lab result, and fix whatever chemistry is off. I'm talking about something with a beginning, a middle, and a distinct end. So when a caregiver walks in and they say, she keeps getting up at night, or he won't shower anymore and he's stinky, she's hitting me when I try to help her get dressed, the doctor is naturally going to look for something that they can fix. And maybe this looks like a new medication, or maybe it's a referral for social worker and a home healthcare aide. And maybe sometimes it is that little brush off of, hey, this is just part of the disease. And I want you to know that dementia behaviors aren't isolated symptoms. They're expressions of unmet needs, part of a complex pattern that usually plays out across days or routines, relationships, and sometimes sensory experiences. And here's the key. That pattern doesn't show up in a 15-minute visit. It's not visible in a blood test. It's something you observe and you track and you live with. Which means caregivers, you are the only one who can really describe it accurately. I've seen this so many times in my own practice, where a family will tell me that their loved one is not behaving the way that they used to. And when I get to the visit, that person is actually having a good day. And so I don't see in my 45-minute visit what's happening at 5 o'clock at night, because it might be 1 o'clock. But what I do ask the family is, please keep a behavior log. This way I can look at it, I can track, and I can see when things are happening, because they are the ones who are experiencing it. They are the ones who have to live with this daily. What do we do when that pattern gets lost in a translation with your healthcare provider? And that pattern that we're talking about, when it gets lost, when there isn't enough time, context, or connection to see what's really happening, it's easy for the healthcare system to shift to what's most familiar to them. And often that means responding to behaviors with a medication or a quick suggestion. And this isn't out of neglect or haste, but because the system is built to move fast, to intervene quickly, and to rely on things that feel tangible at the moment. But we all know that dementia behaviors aren't something that we get to quickly react to. They're not isolated problems, they're part of your person's story. And if we skip over that story and we miss the meaning behind the behavior, then that leaves you holding the consequences alone. And here's where it can get really frustrating for you. You're with your loved one every single day. You've seen the changes, the triggers, the patterns, but when you try to explain it, especially if that visit is rushed, the MA comes in and then the doctor quickly comes in, and then before you know it, you're out the door with your explanation of bill in one hand and a prescription in the other. It can feel like no one is listening to you. So the problem becomes you're trying to be the best advocate, and then they're trying to diagnose, and neither of you is speaking the same caregiver language. And so then what? If the system isn't built for you to help you, what can you actually do about it? And this is the point that I want you to know, because this is where everything changes. Because once you realize it's not you, it's the model of care that we're all living in, you can stop blaming yourself. You can stop feeling so frustrated, and you can start building a plan that works with the behaviors, not against them. And this is why I created the Caregiver Gap Report, to help you understand where the system is falling short and how to start making progress in spite of that. The Caregiver Gap Report is free, and it walks you through the 7 biggest ways the healthcare system fails dementia families and how to fill those gaps with real practical support. You can download it at dementiacaregiversacademy.com/resources. And if this has spoken to you, or you know someone caring for someone with dementia, I'm teaching a free webinar on July 16th where I'll break down exactly what to do when dementia behaviors feel impossible. You can find the link to the registration in the comments below. Look, you're not being too sensitive and you're not overreacting. You're just seeing what the system can't. And now you're learning step by step what to do about that. I'm so glad you're here today, and I can't wait to see you next week. I'll be here sharing for you while you're caring for them. See you next week.